Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
We're very bad at having a business in general. I don't know that we're talented at it, but we're also very bad at celebrating milestones in said business. And
we totally blew past
last week.
Huge podcast milestone.
Yeah, we've been podcasting for 3 years. Last Friday would have been like almost exactly 3 years, and we could have mentioned it and we just forgot.
So now we're doing this belated, like half-hearted. Oh, by the way.
I mean, does anyone care? Do I really even care?
I think it's a milestone. That's a long time to podcast.
It's an arbitrary milestone based on how many days it takes the Earth to orbit the sun.
Well, so are birthdays in that case. We just ignore those.
Yes. You know how I feel about birthdays.
I do know how you feel about birthdays. I love birthdays.
I don't want to talk about it, okay? I don't want to talk about it.
You have such a weird relationship with time.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about other things I have a weird relationship with.
Well, 3 years have passed and we can celebrate that or not, but we will acknowledge it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a long time to podcast every single week.
It's a really long time to do something every single week, almost without fail. Mm-hmm. We've had every holiday season, we tend to take off like 2 or 3 weeks. That's it. That's literally it. That's the longest we've ever gone without giving you something, and often twice a week something up until recently.
No wonder we have so freaking many episodes now.
Too many. I mean, I hope that if you are new to this podcast, you will have fun playing a game where you close your eyes and you just scroll
and then just put your finger somewhere and see what happens.
Somewhere. And that is the thing that you needed to hear today. Have fun with that, because you could do that endlessly at this point.
Clients who are hardcore podcast listeners, and I'll mention episodes and they're like, how did I miss that one? And I'm like, because we have a billion. You just can't listen to all of them. So even our biggest fans sometimes miss things. We just have a lot.
So congrats or something.
Yeah. So play podcast roulette.
Yeah. Go play with no downside other than
no harmful factor.
Hearing an episode that might not feel relevant to you and wasting 40 minutes of your life. But you're always simultaneously doing something else while you're podcasting. So you weren't wasting your time washing dishes or walking your dog. So
you were going to do those things anyway.
Yeah. You're just, slightly less entertained.
I don't know of anyone who just sits still and listens to a podcast.
Sociopaths, they wouldn't waste their time doing that.
I don't think they would. That wouldn't appeal to their narcissism enough. So yeah, everyone multitasks when they're listening to podcasts.
I mean, maybe psychopaths are like multitasking while like committing heinous crimes and listening to a podcast.
Hopefully not ours.
I don't think it would appeal to them. Also,
I don't think so.
The dog oh yeah, the dog is barking. Let me go fix it. Okay, sorry, it was the mailman. Like classic dog shit.
I know, you're being very cliche, Scarlett.
It's really dumb. But I wasn't going to edit all of that out. I didn't want to start over. We were saying things that needed to be heard. Okay. This is a side chat.
And this is one where you're going to hear some Rachel ranting.
Really? I told Kristen earlier, it's a Rachel rants wearing a side chat's hat. That's what it is. Like we're calling it a side chat. It's more of a rant because Kristen this is really not about you. This is about me.
This is about a thing that happened to you recently and you've been ranting about it and processing about it for a while. And I think now you're ready to share about it.
Yeah.
So I might have some thoughts
that
I throw in there too, but this is, we're just going to give you some space to Rant it out.
And I gotta say, I wouldn't be ranting about this if I didn't feel that it was relevant to more than just me.
Well, that's always our podcast.
Yeah, I just want to like put that as the disclaimer that I'm not just like, I need to rant. Let me turn on my microphone.
Right.
No, this was a huge realization that I had that I think is very important that you might need to have too. And okay, let me just dive in. Let me just say that me getting triggered is about me, and that the people that might be triggering me are not to blame. Like, no. I'm not blaming anybody when I rant. Okay. Just that's like a precursor to what I'm about to say.
Will inadvertently push your buttons because sometimes they don't even know the button is there. It's your button.
Yeah. And they just said something that's totally innocuous to them. And it just made you feel the wrath of hell. And that's what happened to me.
Isn't that what Brene Brown calls chandeliering? When you just have like a really big reaction to something that...
An oversized reaction.
Yeah. And there's usually a reason. It's like a pressure point got hit. A nerve got hit. Something underneath there. Like, whoa, I had a strong reaction to that.
I don't know what Brene Brown would say about this because I don't know. I would love to talk to Brene Brown. Never going to happen. I mean, never say never.
Let's talk to her, period.
I mean,
about this, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I might not be able to talk to Brene about this. Other things, maybe. But typically, I feel like when she talks about chandeliering, it's more about you have some sort of unhealed baggage around something and it is hitting a nerve and you are overreacting because there's something deeper going on there that you haven't addressed.
But I think that is kind of what happened.
Kind of, but it's not like, oh, you have some unhealed crap that hasn't been addressed. It was, you have a need that's not getting met.
Yes. And there's a shift that needs to happen here in order to not get triggered in the same way about this.
Which did happen. Okay. Right. So let's just stop talking about
the thing
and then just talk like directly at the thing. Okay. So I had we're going to call it a therapy session recently, just because that sums it up pretty nicely. And again, not about the person. This is about my reaction to the thing. But I was in a very petulant mood. And I use that word very specifically because I felt like a 5-year-old who was throwing a tantrum.
At the universe, at life in general.
Yeah. And I feel like I have to be honest about what, because the rest of it won't make sense unless I'm honest about what I was throwing a tantrum about.
Sure.
Okay. So I was in tantrum mode around, bitch, I am doing the most work here. I am like doing my personal development. I don't understand why the hell I am still single. Like, I just don't. Yeah. Like, even saying that out loud makes me annoyed because I'm sure most of the people listening to this are like, I don't get that either. And some of you are like, oh, I get it. A minority are thinking that. You know, apply it to anything in your life that you want that you haven't gotten. Everyone has a thing. Sometimes we have multiple things.
It's true, though. But everyone has like a sticking point, like where you look around and you're like, how did that seem to come so easily to people? And it's so hard for me. But there's other things that are probably coming easy to you.
Sure.
That are hard for other people.
I could name 10 things that have come easily to me.
Exactly.
Or that are now easy for me that maybe weren't, that were sticking points before that I eventually achieved. Right.
Yep.
And this is just my long-standing sticking point. I don't get it because I have put historically a lot of effort in, and I have lately, like in the last year, put even more effort into, and effort's probably not the right word. Because that makes it sound like
you've been putting attention on it. You've been putting energy into.
I've been cultivating myself. I've been making changes. I've been putting myself into outside of my comfort zone. Let's put it that way. And I know that when you plant seeds, you don't always see immediate results, but you know, okay. But then you sometimes throw tantrums when you're not seeing immediate results. And that's normal. That's normal if you're looking for a job and it's been like 2 years and you're like, why the hell have I not found a job? I'm never going to be hired. Like, I'm going to spend my life doing something I don't care about. I mean,
it's true if you want more money. It's true if you want to lose weight.
Maybe you're trying to have a baby and everyone else is just getting pregnant so easily. And it's been like a year and a half and you're starting to wonder what's broken about you. And I mean, copy paste.
Again, we all have a thing that feels like, I don't know why this is taking so long, or I don't know why this is such a challenge
or
for me.
That's never going to happen for me, I guess.
Exactly. And so, there's days when you're just fed up with how hard it feels like it is. And it shouldn't feel that hard.
Right. I'm working and I'm not seeing my payoff. And I am not willing to climb any higher right now. So I want to sit on this mountain and throw a fucking tantrum because it's like, why am I doing this if I'm not getting results? Like, why the hell does anyone do anything if you're not seeing results? It's just dumb. Mm-hmm. Not to mention kind of torturous to be doing something and not getting any results.
So that's how you felt that day.
I felt like
went into this therapy appointment.
Yeah, I felt like that. And my therapist, again, not really a therapist, but whatever.
Easiest to
describe it that way. She used an analogy that she has used before, like a year ago, probably, when I was also having a tantrum. At that time, a year ago, it was hard to hear, but I was also willing to hear it. This time, my body rejected it like I rejected an organ transplant. Nope, no thanks. Don't want that bullshit. This is foreign to my body. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. And I experienced so much frustration and anger after it that I was like, what is going on here? Why am I so angry?
Like, there's a big old button here that got pushed. I got to figure out why. And like, what is underneath that?
Why was it okay the first time I heard it? And why this time was I just like, nah.
Yep.
No thanks.
Do you want to share the
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to do it. I'm just setting the stage. Okay. So she was like, yeah, it's like you're at your birthday party and you're 6 years old and you have your eye on this like special Barbie and it's like, got all the bells and whistles. It's the one that you want. And you're being handed all of these other gifts and you're opening them up and you're getting excited. And then, well, that's not my Barbie. Toss it into the pile. Next. And you're getting more and more and more and more frustrated because it's very clear no one got you the Barbie. And you're looking around.
Other gifts are like not feeling insignificant in comparison to the lack of the Barbie.
And you're looking around and a lot of your friends at this birthday party, they got that Barbie for their birthday. And you're like, well, what did that bitch do that I didn't do? She didn't say that. But like, what, if they got that Barbie, I should get that Barbie. I don't see, that's not fair. Mm-hmm. And so you're about to you're throwing a tantrum because you didn't get the Barbie that you want for your birthday. And you're ignoring the gifts that you have been given. Like there are things in front of you that are gifts that you are not treating as gifts.
That are really nice things. Because you don't have that Barbie. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to enjoy playing with anything because you don't have that Barbie. Okay. So, tell me your first reaction a year ago to that analogy.
I guess my reaction was, it's fine. I don't like this analogy, but I guess there are probably some truth to it. Like I probably am fixating on this one thing at the exclusion of appreciating other things in my life.
And there's probably something to be said for like, yeah, okay, appreciating other things in my life attracts more things to appreciate. Yeah. There's some
and also I
understanding of that.
The analogy. Hard lesson of like, be where your feet are. Like You're climbing a mountain, to switch analogies here. Like if you're climbing a mountain and you're constantly looking like at the peak and you're not where your feet are, you're going to be tripping all over yourself. Like it takes time to climb up that mountain and you just can't apparate. I'm sorry. You just have to kind of like put one foot in front of the other and keep climbing. And like, it doesn't help to be like, I wish I was up at the top. I wish I was up at the top the whole time.
While you're there. Yeah. Okay. You can look around and say, there's still some nice views at this height of the mountain.
Things you can appreciate about that climb if you try.
So you could rationally understand the analogy and kind of make sense of it, but it didn't feel good emotionally.
It wasn't great.
Okay.
No one wants to hear that, even if it's true. A lot of things that are true, you don't want to hear, but you need to hear them. So at that time, I was like, I guess I need to hear that. Fine.
Okay. What happened this time?
This time, I, again, full scale, just said, I rejected it. And I didn't do it in the session. It was more like afterward, I was really ruminating on it. And I was like, no. It took me about a week and it took me externally processing with multiple people, but I have since come up with a full scale takedown of this analogy. It's a multi-point presentation.
I've heard the presentation once, but let's hear it again.
Okay. First of all, there are certain things in life that are not wants, that are needs. So a Barbie is not one of those things. It's not a need. No one needs a Barbie. Okay. You might need food. You might need shelter.
You might need a family to support you.
You might need
education.
It's not a need to have a Barbie. So my first qualm with that was that I think what I want is a need. And I think you're treating it like it's a want.
Which is minimizing
my need.
Yes. And that feels kind of belittling in the moment.
Very. And kind of manipulative. And I'm going to get into that more.
Mm-hmm.
But let me take a side tangent. Not really a tangent. It's just like a sub point. And say, why do I believe...
like a bulleted list going on here. Okay.
Why do I think that is a need? Because connection is a human need.
That's true. We're not meant to live alone.
We are not meant to live in isolation. It is a fucking fact. Okay? Like, I don't argue with me all you want. I have stamped this. It's a fact. It's not going to unbecome a fact. Okay? Loneliness, it's proven that loneliness is as bad for you as smoking.
It has a lot of physical and also mental health repercussions. And there's science behind that.
There is science behind that. Not that I know it off the top of my head, but I've listened to plenty of podcasts where they talk about that science.
Well, and it's no shock to anyone that humans are social creatures. We're not meant to survive alone in the wild.
No.
We need a tribe. We need companionship. We need someone to kind of help us go through life because it's really hard.
And I would challenge anyone to tell me that it's easier to do life by yourself than it is in tandem with another person. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes in certain circumstances, that is not true because you are with a shit of a person and they are making every aspect of your life harder. That's not really what I'm saying. I'm saying like a healthy family, a healthy partnership should only be making your life easier.
Yeah, you're not saying all partnership is better than all soloship.
Definitely not. But I am saying,
but healthy partnership,
healthy family
is a very normal thing for people to crave because it's something that genuinely makes your life better and easier
on many fronts. Literally physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, every level.
Financial.
Fucking financial. Don't even get me started on how much more expensive it is to be one person versus two.
Just division of labor, all kinds of stuff.
Division of rent, division of water bill. I mean, division of walking the fucking dog.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it's easier to be someone who's doing life in tandem with someone else for the most part. It just is.
And it's okay and I'm not going to say that is a need for every single person on the planet is to be in partnership. I don't know that that's always true.
I think connection and belonging are needs.
I do. Yes.
And how you go about
marriage might not be the way that everyone wants to do it, but that's for a lot of people, that's how they want that need met.
For most people, partnership is a need. There are some people who might never want to get married, but they still want to be partnered with someone. Mm-hmm. There are some people,
or they want to just feel like a very like part of a very tight knit community or family unit of some kind,
which I think is slightly different than partnership. I think that's those are I think family and partnership are not necessarily one and the same. I don't think having a great partner can necessarily make up for like you feeling lonely in a more like biological family sense or like a family of origin sense. But you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think you get my point. That connection and belonging are not wants, they're needs. And I also can rebut your point about family and stuff because I have a family and I have plenty of friends and it hasn't made up for the fact that
it's a different thing. You're not doing life with them.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not living with my parents. Thank God. I think they would also say, thank God. Much to Charlotte. Charlotte. I was trying to say Scarlett's chagrin and I said Charlotte. Much to Scarlett's chagrin. She was not living with my dad.
If you lived with your dad,
but
she could be with him 24/7.
For the health of us all, that's probably for the best. But yeah, no, I'm not doing life with that. Like I'm not living on like a family compound or something. Even then, I don't know that would displace the need for a partnership. I just don't know that it would. And again, maybe not for everyone, but that's what I want
for you. And not everyone has the exact same needs, but that is a need for you.
So it's a need. It's not a want. And so to treat it like a Barbie is it kind of made me feel a little bit inadvertently gaslit. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, I actually think, let me flip it, reverse it and rewind a second before I go on. Because I was about to make a peanut butter and jelly analogy and I'm going to get there. But
teaser.
So many analogies I got today. I have got analogies on analogies.
I mean, we always have a billion analogies and they're usually overlapping. Anyone who's ever coached with me knows like I'll put 3 analogies in one. Sure. So just get ready for it.
I think when you don't have a need met, it's more akin to being malnourished than anything else. And that's the analogy I'm going to use in lots of different ways to explain this. Okay. So it's like eating a peanut butter and jelly every day. Can you live off of peanut butter and jellies? Technically? Yeah, you could. And maybe not get scurvy, I guess. I mean, I guess, does the grape jelly help
maybe
with that?
A little bit of citrus going on in there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, could you technically survive off of peanut butter and jellies for a long time if you needed to?
Your calorie intake if you had to.
Yeah. Would you be malnourished? Yes.
Yeah, would your body start to revolt eventually?
Yes, you would.
Yeah, it would not be pretty, but you would be alive. You would have survived.
Yeah. You'd be surviving. You would not be thriving.
No.
So the Barbie thing made me feel like, why aren't you grateful for your peanut butter and jelly?
Look at all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches you have.
Right. Like, you should be more grateful for your water. You should be more grateful for your house.
Your air.
Like, why are you not more grateful for your peanut butter and jelly? Like, bitch, like, I'm hungry.
I need some vegetables.
And I need some vitamins.
Like, my body needs vegetables.
Another analogy for you. Let's say I feel malnourished and I go and get my blood drawn and they say, well, you're good on iron. Your vitamin D is fine, but you're very low on B12 and you're having symptoms of that. Like, you're feeling lethargic. You're feeling like really fatigued. You don't have a ton of energy to do things. No amount of fucking gratitude for my iron is going to make up for my B12 deficiency, bitch.
Right. I can't like appreciate away that deficiency.
I can't.
I just need to put B12 in my body.
But that's what we do when we treat needs like wants, is we're like, oh, well, you can just have gratitude for the things that you do have. Sure. Okay, cool. I guess it doesn't hurt to be grateful for my iron.
Right. Like, I could have more wrong besides the B12.
I mean,
that's fine.
But like, that's not going to fix my B12 deficiency.
And it also starts to make you feel bad for the side effects that you're having from the malnourishment of the B12 deficiency. Yes. Because, well, maybe I should just be more appreciative of all the other health that I have. And it's my fault that I'm having these reactions.
So instead of treating me like I'm a 5-year-old having a tantrum, why don't you treat me like I'm someone who's malnourished, who's struggling with symptoms of malnourishment, and work with me on that? Because that would have been the right approach. Is, listen, you're tired, you're frustrated, you're cranky. Yeah, these are all symptoms of malnourishment. And we might not be able to fix the malnourishment overnight. We might not be able to fix the B12 imbalance or get you that like healthy, robust, non-peanut butter and jelly diet overnight. But we can absolutely be empathetic to the symptoms and we can help you work through your frustration with being malnourished.
And not be dismissive of how you're feeling, because when you don't have a need met, you are going to have a very strong, sometimes physical, definitely emotional reaction to that. And that's okay. And that should be validated, not invalidated.
But when something is a want, when it's treated like a want, your normal human reaction is not allowed, is kind of what happens, right? Like,
and I have my own thoughts about that too. Like, why can't we also want things and be upset when we don't have the things that we want? Yeah, but that's fine.
But we do try to dismiss that, right? We do try to go, oh, you're just throwing a tantrum because you don't have that thing that you want. Instead of, if it's a need, everyone's more sympathetic to it. They're more empathetic around people who don't have needs met. Can you imagine another analogy? This one a little bit more like dark and real life, but can you imagine someone who is struggling with infertility being given the Barbie analogy?
Oh, that would be heartbreaking.
It would be so cruel and dismissive to that person's grief and their pain. And listen, I'm not here to like hold up my grief or pain against that situation or any other situation. But I am saying that there's a lot in common between what someone in that situation might want and what I want, like family and belonging and intimacy and connection. Like, there's a lot of overlap between the desire that's underneath those things. Now they're manifesting totally differently on the surface.
Sure. But nobody would try to talk someone out of their grief of not being able to have the child that they want.
Yeah.
They would understand that and be empathetic and be supportive of like, I know this is a hard thing to experience and you've been trying for a long time and like my heart goes out to you. That would be the reaction that most normal people would have.
They wouldn't try to fix it.
Versus if it was like a want of like, I want this new car. Oh, I've been wanting this new car for 2 years. No one's going to be like, I understand your grief.
Yeah. No.
So if you treat it like a new car, but really how it feels is like this strong yearning for family, like someone who's trying to get pregnant, that's a really, really awful thing to do to a person is to make their need feel like a car.
Yeah. Make it.
Or a Barbie.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think a lot of people are doing this to themselves, frankly. Like other people are definitely doing it to you. But I think sometimes we treat our own needs like wants and then feel bad that we're not like grateful for all the other things in our life. When really what I need is I need partnership or I need a new job because I'm in a toxic job and it is stealing my mental health.
Or we get frustrated at ourselves for not having a perfect reaction every time. Like when I get cranky, when I get down in the dumps, instead of being kind, compassionate about that, as if it's just a symptom of not getting my need met, I'm like, oh my God, like here you are again, like, throwing a tantrum and complaining. And like, that's not getting you any closer to your goal. Like it's not kind. And it's, I think we've learned so much in like spiritual terms of being non-attached, right? Like in order to get what you want, you need to be not attached to it. Nope.
You can't be unattached to a need.
You can't. And
you need it.
Here's a perfect example. That everyone who listens to this knows my relationship to sleep, or at least if you've listened to a few podcasts, you've probably heard me talk about it. A few weeks ago, we did the whole thing on it. Oh yeah. So every once in a while, I get myself into a bad sleep cycle and I have to work my way out of it. And, okay, if I were getting 6 hours of sleep every night consistently, I'd be a very different person than if I got 8 hours of sleep a night consistently. Like night and day, a different person.
Mm-hmm.
So again, to the peanut butter and jelly analogy, it's like, why aren't you grateful for your 6 hours of sleep? You could have been 4. It's like, bitch, I just need 8.
Okay. On the flip side of that, I have a client right now who was just telling me, she's like, I require like 9 hours of sleep. And I feel like that's excessive. I feel like, I don't need that much sleep. She's like, I asked my doctor, is this okay? Is something wrong with me? And thankfully, her doctor did not shame her. Her doctor's like, no, you just need that much sleep. Like give yourself that much sleep. That is what you need.
Yeah.
And everything else in your life can fit around that.
Yeah.
And there's no need to feel guilty for needing that much sleep because that is what your body needs.
So when I'm in a bad sleep cycle, eventually my need always ends up getting met. Eventually I always get back to sleeping better.
And you've never gotten caught in insomnia forever.
No. And it is not because I ended up being unattached to the outcome. Let me be clear. I have always been very attached to getting good sleep.
Yeah, you're not like, never. If I get 2 hours of sleep tonight, it's going to be fine. It's all fine.
No. Oh, no. And I've always ended up getting my need met. You don't have to be unattached when it's a need because it's natural to be attached when it's a need.
I don't think you have to be totally unattached, even when it's a want, frankly, because what else is desire than some kind of attachment? Now, I think clinging and gripping, and that can be, kind of get in your way sometimes, but like, honestly, even if it's a need, like sometimes you just need it. I don't know what else to tell you. Mm-hmm. And nobody would blame you for going out and doing whatever it took to get it.
Sure. Okay. So, however, if I were to go to if I were to go to someone who then tries to gaslight me around this with sleep, it would sound like, let's just work to overcome your need for 8 hours of sleep. Like maybe we can go out in the sun and like rejuvenate that way. Like, excuse me, I just need 8 hours of sleep. I cannot overcome a need. You cannot fix a need no one should expect you to overcome a need.
Not like
wrong.
Not like the B12 deficiency. Well, we'll just give you more iron and that'll just
let's just try to overcome your need
out, right?
for B12.
No, nothing else is going to suit this need except B12.
B12 is B12. It is going, but here's the thing. Here's where the grief and the pain come in. Because it is very normal for humans to live in a state of perpetual uncertainty of whether they will ever get a need met. That is where the grief comes in. If I'm chronically sleep deprived, to imagine the rest of my life feeling like this is unbearable.
Yep.
And yet that might very well end up being true, right? Like, or if you're struggling with infertility, you are struggling with the idea that this will never change and that I might never have children. Or if you're, really feeling dejected about your work and feeling like I will never do something that lights me up, that's an awful feeling. And yet that's what's happening when you have a need that's not getting met, is that you are concerned that this might be the rest of my life. And so, of course, you're going to throw tantrums sometimes. Of course, you're going to be down in the dumps sometimes, because that's an awful thing to have to carry around. Mm-hmm. That uncertainty, that fear, that grief is an awful thing to have to carry around. And you have to be allowed to have the full totality of the human experience and emotions around the prospect that you might never get a need met. And that's almost like oxymoronic, isn't it? To have a need that literally never gets met. It's it's a need, therefore you have to have it, but then it's also possible to never get it. Mm-hmm. That state of dissonance is very difficult.
And so your emotional reaction is normal, but then to judge your grief or to feel judged for your grief is hurt on top of hurt.
Yeah.
And that's nobody needs to be shamed by themselves or by other people for grieving the current or perpetual lack of a need. Mm-hmm. That's just cruel. That's torturous.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, just sitting around all day complaining about how tired I am fix my sleep deprivation? No. But you want to know what else doesn't fix it? Sitting around all day being happy about the fact that I'm sleep deprived. You know what fixes it? Usually just fixes itself.
But you have you protect your sleep too. You do a lot of things you're not just I'll just lay in bed whenever and just don't worry about when I'm not going to worry about a bedtime. I'm not going to worry about where I'm sleeping or what's going on. You protect that because it's so important and that helps it fix itself. So again, you can't just sit around and be like, well, sucks to not have B12.
We might have to change your diet. We might have to get B12 injections or whatever
to kind of get that need met. That's fine. But it also might take a while for your body to adjust to that. And that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully you have someone who can help you work through the symptoms and the negative side effects of not having that need met and help you maybe get closer to, here's the analogy that I'm thinking of. Sometimes when you're deficient in something like B12, it's not because you're not ingesting enough. It's because you're not absorbing it. Mm-hmm. It's your body is not primed for absorption. And so, okay, all right, maybe there is some responsibility that I have to take in allowing myself to be receptive to my need. So maybe I do need to change my diet so that I can heal my gut and be better at absorbing the nutrients that are passing through my body. That is work that only I can do. Mm-hmm. And again, being grateful for my iron is not going to make a difference. I have to be willing to do the work. So I'm not saying that just calling everything in need is going to fix everything. I'm saying that when we honor needs and we call it like it is, we make space for the totality of the human experience around it. It becomes okay to be attached to it. It becomes okay to have strong feelings around it. It becomes okay to have bad days around it. And then also, it's okay for us to also take responsibility around it too. Just because it's a need, I feel like a lot of us are better when it comes to feeling like we're worthy of our needs. I don't sit around going, am I worthy of my sleep? Right. But with wants, we often act like that. Mm-hmm. We often go,
I'm not there yet, or I don't know if I deserve that, or if worked hard enough for that.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. With needs, we tend to be some of us still do it with needs, but we do it less frequently. Mm-hmm. And so we treat it a little bit more well, yeah, of course I should just get that because that's just a need. Everybody should get that.
I want to bring up a need that I think a lot of people who are probably listening to our podcast are probably struggling with, which is, I'm going to make a blanket statement here. Humans have a need, not a want, a need for some kind of meaningful work.
Yeah, we do.
I don't care if it's paid. I don't care if it's volunteer. I don't care if it's a creative project. I don't care what it is, but we need meaningful work.
Yeah.
And I've had multiple clients. I can think of a couple right now, but over the years, I've had a lot of clients who feel bad. Like, well, maybe I should just change my attitude about my work because I don't actually really care. But like, you know, there's a lot of good things here. And maybe I should be grateful for all the other toys at the birthday party, even though I don't have the meaningful work toy. And trying to make a kind of shitty situation more palatable and ignoring the fact that I need meaningful work. This is where I spend a lot of my time throughout my whole life is working. And if I don't have any meaning attached to that, or I don't have any like care for what I'm doing, it's just a waste of my time, but it pays the bills. That is going to feel awful. And if you have days where you can't stomach that, that's okay.
That's okay.
Because a need of all. And so if you were wondering, does that count as a need here in this conversation? I'm going to tell you right now, it does.
It definitely does. Yeah. And again, you do have responsibility in helping your needs to get met.
Right. You can't just sit around and wait for your employer to completely change into something that you need it to be. I mean, every once in a blue moon, maybe your company gets acquired and now it turns into something wonderful. But like, that's not what we're talking about here.
You do have responsibility in priming yourself for the need to get met. So if it's relationship stuff and you really have a need for a healthy partnership, but you've got like mega attachment style problems, well, you might not be able to absorb that need if it shows up because you haven't detangled that issue yet. So that might be work that you have to do.
Or if you're an intense people pleaser and part of what's making your job so difficult is that you overcommit and burn yourself out because you're saying yes to everyone. Even if you get a really perfect next job, but you haven't worked with the people pleasing stuff, you're going to just do the same thing in the next place. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes there is like your work to be able to get all of the goodness out of your need once it gets met.
Right?
Exactly.
Absorb to the fullest degree the need. Yeah, exactly. And same goes with like the sleep, right? If you have a need for good sleep, but you're staying up until 1 a.m. on your phone, well, your responsibility is to prime yourself for the best possible sleep. And no one can do that for you. So, obviously I wanted to bring this up because I think this happens a lot. It happens inadvertently in like therapy sessions. It happens.
Or in conversations with your friends or family.
Oh my God, all the time.
Where especially happens when there's people who it seems like the need that you're craving came really easily to them.
Or I would actually say that even the opposite is true. They never got it met. And so they can't stand the idea of you getting it met if they didn't.
Right. So their relationship to that need is going to have a lot to do with how they respond to your reaction to your need not getting met. So they'll either be like, oh, it's not such a big deal. Don't worry about it. Or they'll talk you out of it or be dismissive or whatever. So you're going to get that externally. But I really especially want you to pay attention to when you do it to yourself. Yeah. Because that's really hard.
Yeah.
Is when you're judging yourself for how you react to the lack of a need.
So now that I've started thinking about this more for myself as a need versus a want, I'll tell you what's happened. Again, it has made space for me to be okay with all of the feelings I have around it because I see it with more empathy. Like, okay, well, that's just a symptom of the malnourishment. Makes perfect sense that you're feeling like that right now. I also feel more confident and grounded in my wanting it because I'm like, oh, like I have never once questioned whether I'm going to get good sleep. It just freaking happens. And again, I'm not as worried about being attached to it because with needs, I tend to get them met. It might take a while, but I don't question whether I deserve to get them met.
And you don't feel bad when you can't detach from your desire.
I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like, of course I would be attached to that. Why wouldn't I be? And in this weird, ironic way, being like, well, of course they'd be attached to that, actually releases resistance and makes you somehow like less attached.
Yeah.
Right?
You're not fighting it.
Not fighting it. You're just allowing.
Yep.
You're like, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Of course I'm attached to that. Like, whatever. And there's like a good kind of entitlement that comes with treating something like a need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that we're going to get this question, so it's worth asking. What's the difference between like entitlement and need, or neediness and treating something like a need? Because I think there are a lot of people out there who would say, well, yeah, I need a relationship, but it's like, oh no, you're actually clinging to the idea of a relationship because you're terrified to be alone.
I think, I mean, this comes down to intention. If you're like, I need this to validate that I'm worthy.
Yes.
Then that's
not
something anyone else can give you.
Hold on. You know, quote unquote, needing something to validate you is not a need. That's a want. You do not need. No human has a need for external validation. We have a need for connection and belonging. You do not need external validation. You want external validation.
You know the difference, because even if you get it, it doesn't actually fill the real need, which is I need internal validation. Yeah. So someone else validating you feels good for a little while, and then you crave more, and then you crave more, and because it's a black hole. Because
it's an addiction.
You don't actually need that from someone else. You need it from yourself. Mm-hmm. So often I feel needy, or I feel, you can also tell it feels like very like anxious. Like I need this from someone, almost like that addiction kind of a quality.
Yeah.
You're not actually going to be satisfied if you get that quote unquote need met externally.
Yeah. So
intention matters, just like in everything in life.
It's a both and. Mm-hmm. You know, even if someone who's like got a ton of unhealthy habits and still wants a healthy relationship, the need is perfectly valid. The need is human. Mm-hmm. How much work do you have to do to get yourself ready to absorb the need? Maybe a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe you've got some crap that you have to work through so that you can best absorb that need. That's fine. So I think neediness is different than acknowledging something as a human need. Neediness is, I think, overly relying on other people, usually to fix you or do something for you that you feel like you can't do for yourself. Mm-hmm. So like, and I can't be my own like life partner. I mean, I am. Do you know what I mean? Like both and.
Right.
But that is a hard line.
You're not like, I'm a broken human without this. It's just, I need this to have a full life that I want to live.
Well, yeah. Yeah. This is so tricky because, again, do I need it in order to like survive? Absolutely not. I'm doing really well on my own. Do I need it to thrive? I feel like I do. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. But sometimes I think you have to like get good at surviving on your own before you are then ready to have your need met, so that you can prove to yourself, I'm good. I'm capable. I've healed my stuff. It's messy. I don't think there's a clear-cut line between like need and want, or neediness and need, right?
Yeah.
Because some people might think I'm being needy right now. And I know that I'm not, because I think neediness to me is that, at least the way that I would describe it in my situation, is that I feel like I literally can't do XYZ without that. Like, I need a partner because I don't want to make money. I can't make money on my own. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
and I'm like, no, I can. I just don't want to. So in that way, the want came back in, right? Like, and you know what? To kind of maybe wrap this up and cap this off, I was talking to our great friend, Britt, who we've talked about many a time and had on the podcast before. And she was like, I think the ultimate realization here is that need, want, who the hell cares? If you want it, you need it, it's valid.
I mean, that's how I want to see it too,
yeah.
Frankly.
Like, it doesn't matter what you call it. Like if you crave something, then you can have it. Mm-hmm. And what we call it is just semantics. But I personally find semantics make a big difference in how I'm able to process something.
Yeah.
And so me thinking of this as a need really helped me.
How much less you might judge yourself.
Totally. And it just changes your whole perspective on
Yeah, she's right. Ultimately, it shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter.
But it will make a difference in your own perception of it.
Yeah.
If you can view what you've been thinking of as a want, but you're having negative consequences to not having it met, maybe it's like, oh, this is a need. Okay, I can process this differently now.
Yeah. So maybe one last thing we should say is like, because I feel like we might get this question, like, wait, is what I want a need? I feel like people are going to be like, wait, how do I know? How do I tell? And I'm not talking to each and every one of you. I don't know what the thing is.
But for the vast majority of you, I'm going to tell you, if you're asking that and you're that, it's probably a need.
I mean, if you're having a strong reaction to not having it, it might be rooted in a need.
Most of our people are going to have trouble giving themselves permission to recognize
and credit, right?
Yep.
But in when we got coach trained, there's like a very simple tool called the Wheel of Life that you use to kind of assess like how much of my needs are getting met at any given time. And there's like 8 or 9 slices of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even sure I could remember all of them, but it's health, money, family, fun.
I think there's relationships and there's also intimate relationships.
Yeah. So
there's
that
like social relationships,
intimate relationships. And there's also family. So there's like 3 different types of like people oriented ones.
Fun is one of them.
Meaningful work is another one. I mean, I think I already said health, development, right? Yeah. Spirituality or personal development is another one. So if the thing you're thinking of falls into one of those categories, it's probably a need.
Yep.
And you have permission to start treating it accordingly, which might not shift so much on the surface, but it might shift how you feel about it.
It also might shift how you prioritize your time, because sometimes if it's a want, you'll just keep pushing it on the back burner.
Yeah. Right. Well, I want a career, but this one is fine. It's like,
I want to,
but if you have a need for meaningful work,
I want to shake this up for my family.
Right. That's a need.
It's a need. So you might need to prioritize some job searching. You might need to prioritize some informational interviews to start building some momentum in getting that need met.
I'm thinking of people I've known who've been in really unhealthy relationships in the past and have had to contemplate ending those relationships, whether it's breakups or divorce. Especially divorce. It's always harder to go through a divorce, I find. And I've heard people very frankly say, like, I could stay. And I'm like, are you getting like, yeah, you could survive, but would you thrive? That's a need, to feel seen and heard and really deeply understood. That's also a need.
Yes.
And again, that's not necessarily external validation, because you're not looking at anyone to validate your existence and to make you feel worthy, but to feel seen, heard, understood, respected, loved, appreciated. That is not a want.
Because the opposite is isolation and loneliness. And we know, once again, that does very bad things to the human body and spirit.
Yeah. So I just want you to maybe put on this hat, trade want for need, see if it makes a difference in how you're thinking about the thing that you've been craving, and see if you can be kinder to yourself about the fact that, oh, maybe that's why this is hard. Maybe that's why this is taking so long to get met, is because maybe I've been treating it like a want and not doing it justice and service. Maybe I haven't been prioritizing it. Maybe I've been being really hard on myself for having negative reactions or tantrums sometimes around it. Maybe instead of trying to talk myself out of being depressed around it, we fucking do this. Yeah. Like, why can't I make this work? What's wrong with me? Maybe it's like, oh, it's just a symptom of not having a need met. Okay. Symptoms are just the body trying to tell me. Symptoms are just the body mind trying to tell me there's something out of balance here that needs to be corrected. So instead of trying to overcome the symptom, I treat the symptom as a sign of what I need to do next, which is get this met or prepare to get this met. Work so that I can absorb the need best when it arrives, because you might not be able to get it overnight. I can tell you for sure that hasn't been my experience. Mm-hmm. But this has helped me a lot in giving myself permission to just have the whole messy experience, because needs get to be kind of messy and concrete.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed your first Rachel rant in the bodysuit of Saijan.
Ew. in the skin suit.
Not a skin suit, like a jumper.
Oh, okay. Like a wetsuit or something?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Wearing a disguise of a...
Yeah, and like the trench coat of a...
Exactly.
I liked hat. I don't know why you just wouldn't keep going with
I
hat.
feel like a hat is not quite a big enough statement, but I don't know.
Well,
Maybe like a fascinator.
I don't know. Moira Rose might disagree with you on that.
Yeah. She loves her hats and her wigs.
And her wigs. Yeah. I could have said in the wig of a side jet. Okay.
We do have some updates.
We have some announcements
with you
about Patreon because we said last week that we have some things coming and now we have concrete details around it.
Yeah, we teased some things last week.
Just so that you know, for people who join the Patreon at the higher tier, the $6 flame tier, that's the community tier. The first tier is just bonus content. Second tier is bonus content and community stuff. There are 3 different things that we announced last week to our patrons. We're going to announce them to you. So we're doing another
community hang.
Yeah, a community meetup on Zoom.
Because we're doing them every month. We've got our April date set now.
It is Sunday, April 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And it is going to be
it's going to be so good.
90-minute experience because it's going to be a group breathwork session with Francisca Hernandez, who we have had on the podcast 3 times.
The most of anyone.
The most of anyone. She is one of our patrons and she graciously said that she would love to host a breathwork session for everyone. It'll be for beginners. And if you've ever been curious about it, I'll leave a teeny little description of a preview of what breathwork actually is in the show notes. But it's going to be cool to have an expert come on and lead us in a group. I'm coming to this. I'm not leading it. Because I can just participate. I'm going to come to that one.
You guys are going to love breathwork. And we told you, so the first community hangout was a book club. And we told you that wasn't going to be every month. No, we will have periodic book clubs. I think we have a lot of book nerds.
A lot of book
in our Patreon community, which makes sense because like attracts like.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that sometimes, but we're going to change it up. We want feedback from people. So this is going to be a really, really good one. So you want to definitely sign up.
Yeah, a lot of people,
and then
most people there will have never experienced breathwork before.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be some who have, but you don't have to know what the hell it is or it's a very cool practice. It can be very intense, but very rewarding,
very therapeutic,
very
a release.
Oh my God, Francisca would never call a need a Barbie.
Never.
So you're very safe in her embrace.
Yes. So that's announcement 1.
Yes. The second announcement is that for the community, we are also going to be doing our first Krachel
Again, this
hangout.
is for the flame tier, the $6 tier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be on May 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're actually going to record that. So we will record our Krachel Zooms. So people can come live or they can submit questions if they can't be there live. We'll record it. I think we're going to do I think our first one is going to be, it's going to be ask us anything style. And really, questions are off limits. I don't think. We'll see.
I mean, I'm curious about how curious people are about us, but they seem to have a lot of questions.
It doesn't have to just be personal questions. It can be coaching. It can be anything, literally anything. Yeah. So that'll be fun. Wednesday, the May 12th at 1. And then
the last piece is
a big one.
We have created an actual community where you can go. It's on
a Discord. It's a Discord server. That's what it's called.
Yep. Which is, I know it's new to a lot of people in the group because they've been trying to figure it out. So if you've ever used Slack, very similar to Slack. A lot of people use that for work, but this is a little bit more casual.
It's a private space with multiple channels for discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our community level. So our $6 patrons, they get access to Discord. And so there's channels around books and more. So that's where we talk about books and podcasts and
about career stuff. So you want to go career oriented questions or things that you want to share, get the group's feedback on.
There's one about real talk, which is where you get real and you can share vulnerable stuff. You can share lows, you can share highs. You can talk about, stories of the universe helping you out. That's always nice.
One, which is,
sure. And I'm open to creating more.
But then there's a really fun one that we're doing this month.
Yeah. Well, it's ongoing, but we challenged our patrons. So if you join, you can jump into this challenge. It's called Friend Dates. And we want people to be able to connect one-on-one, not just like at that monthly meetup. So the Discord is just a good place to go in general because you can chat about anything like at any time with people. But we're having people introduce themselves in the friend dates channel and then challenging them to ask one other person out on a date. So if you ask someone out and then someone asks you out, then you might have two different friend dates.
Sure.
And
you have like phone calls or video chat or whatever you want to do. There's even a video chat feature built into Discord.
Yeah, so you don't even have to get off Discord to do it if you don't want to. So we're trying to make it easy for the people who join our Patreon to actually like talk and connect on a daily basis if they want to, as opposed to randomly just like once a month. Like it's hard to make friends if you're not actually connecting.
If you're on a group call one time a month.
Yeah, you're not really getting one-on-one time.
Yeah. So and that's why we're doing this, is we want to actually have you guys connect with each other. So what better way than to find some people who you're like, hey, that person
because connection and belonging is a need. As established.
So yeah, come on in and meet a friend and ask them on a date.
Yeah. I kind of wish I could do it, but I can't. Because everyone would be like, yeah, let's have a free coaching session. I'd be like, no, that's not what this is. Also, I've been out on dates with so many of these people because I coach them and I know them so well. So it's fine.
We've already had many of our own friend dates with
the other day. I didn't break the rule because it's not a rule, but I did text one of my clients and I was like, ask this person out on a date. I was like, I know I probably shouldn't be getting involved, but I really want you guys to go out on a date.
Like matchmaker.
I am, because I'm like, I think you guys would love each other. But mostly I'm just letting them do their thing. So yeah,
lots happening in the Patreon community world.
Yeah.
So if you're intrigued, come on in and join us.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, that was a lot.
Yeah,
that was a long one.
That was a lot.
But like, I had a lot to say, and I do not regret it.
Well, as usual, you can always come and leave us a comment if you're like, oh, I needed to hear this.
Yeah, I'm very curious if there's something that you've been thinking that's a want that might actually be a need. And
I want you to come declare it in our comments.
Or if you need clarity around like, wait, does this count? I think this might be a need, but I'm afraid that it's not. And then I'm being stupid. You can comment that too. Whatever. Any reaction you have is warranted.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. We'll be back
next week.
We're actually bringing, can you believe we're bringing on an expert? Yeah. So we have an expert who's coming on next week to talk to us about, we're getting practical next week. We're going to talk about job search stuff specifically as it relates to the COVID era. Broader implications than that, I'm sure. But he has worked at some big places and done like recruiting for like big places like Facebook. And so we're going to ask like a lot of the job search, how do I freaking find a job that has a good culture? Those types of questions. So,
and has that changed in a more virtual world? And what does that look like? And yeah.
So we're gonna get practical for those of you who are like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is all good, but like I also need that. We're here to serve you on all of the levels.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think some of you are there, especially now that we're starting to emerge out of COVID, and people are like, oh, maybe I can start to make some changes. Whereas last year I was like, I just got to survive. I can't even think about anything else. So yeah, might be good timing for some of you.
All right.
So we will see you next Friday.
All right. Bye.
Bye.